President Obama arriving in Cuba yesterday, making him the first president to visit Cuba in 88 years. Interestingly, the last presidential visitor to Cuba from the United States, of course, was Calvin Coolidge in 1928, who arrived by battleship. Imagine, Lewis, at that time, if somebody said to him, the next time a president arrives, it will be on a Boeing 747 outfitted with whatever it is that Air Force One has on it. But that is the reality.
Yes, a battleship 88 years ago. I really can't think of a good reason why that is the case, why it took that long.
Well, and we are sort of seeing the lack of logic of the Cuban embargo in the reaction that now Republicans and right wingers are unhinged about, right? We're hearing right wingers say President Obama is rewarding communism and lack of open and fair elections and human rights abuses with a presidential visit. Well, then what are we doing to Saudi Arabia? What exactly are we rewarding with our incredible friendship and alliance with one of the most oppressive Wahhabist regimes? I mean, if that's the standard, think about what we're tacitly endorsing with that alliance.
And if you want the situation in Cuba to improve, do you do it by not involving yourself at all? Or do you do it by trying to interject some democracy and bring them up to speed a bit?
In what way has the Cuban embargo over the last decade upon decade moved Cuba in the direction we would like to see them move? This is the pragmatic end to a ridiculous double standard. It is hopefully the beginning of an era that will start to nudge Cuba out of the status quo. President Obama last night having dinner at one of hundreds of these privately run restaurants that were only recently made permissible in the state-run economy. Starwood Hotels, which does the Westin and a number of other properties. It was recently purchased by Marriott. They've signed a deal with Cuba to manage two properties with the intent of managing a third. This is the first hotel deal with Cuba since 1959. Now, I don't know why we want to be cheerleading such overt vulture capitalism and industry consolidation like we're seeing. But as a sort of response to those who say that there is no progress being made in Cuba, there is some progress being made in Cuba without obviously ignoring human rights, horrible human rights situations on part of the island and so many other issues, no doubt about it. But the double standard is really what we should concern ourselves with here.
And it's still shocking to me that people are afraid of communism, right? Or they're pretending to be, because they'll bring that up. What is going to happen? Is Obama gonna catch communism while he's there and come back? And I guess many of these people already consider Obama a communist anyway.
And this is sort of how democratization works, right? The U.S. isn't going to become a communist country because we end the Cuban embargo with Cuba, obviously, any more than we're going to become, hopefully, although Christian Sharia is a concern, any more than we're going to become a Wahhabist regime, a Wahhabist theocracy that sentences atheist bloggers to 2,000 lashes and 10 years in prison like Saudi Arabia. In the same way, though, that the alliance with Saudi Arabia hasn't changed what they do there. The lack of alliance, the embargo with Cuba, has changed nothing over the last 50 years. And this just makes sense. Right wingers are frothing at the mouth, but I see this as a definitive achievement of the Obama administration.
Agreed. And I think somewhere behind a lot of this is just the fear or the worry that Cubans will just start coming into the United States en masse if we improve relations, and people are afraid of that. And well, as we've discussed extensively, I don't think you need to be afraid of immigration.
And more broadly, this has nothing to do with celebrating any particular element of Cuban life or culture or society or government. What we should be in favor of here is recognizing that the strategy for 50 years hasn't worked, and we should favor diplomacy over aggressiveness and hostility and what we've seen over the last 50 years.